aspects of the business, your role in the business, and yourself personally and professionally. And that's a direct slide from that. The only thing I did was change the orange to green because the orange is kind of painful to look at. All right, and this part here is something we never talked about, so that's what we're going to talk about today. How to improve yourself and get yourself on a path of continuous improvement. We also had a slide on quality management, and we talked about, first of all, we defined quality, and then we talked about Deming, Duran, Six Sigma, total quality management, some of those kind of things, but we just kind of mentioned them and then moved on from there, talked about some of the tools and how they might be used. When we defined quality, we said it was managing systems and processes to eliminate errors and developing an environment for continuous improvement. And so that's the theme of today, is continuous improvement. All right, so you remember the picture that I had up on the slide show about the Deming cycle, the continuous plan, do, check, act. We also had on that same slide the Six Sigma one with DMAIC, so define, measure, analyze, improve, and control. So we had both of those on there, and we talked a little bit about them, and Dr. Sandell gave a presentation on the Six Sigma management tools that you can use to analyze and improve processes. One of the things we didn't get into was Deming's philosophy, and you know, Deming was a philosopher more than he was, or before he was a business manager. And you know, he was a consultant in quality manufacturing, and what he did was teach management folks how to manage their business for continuous improvement so they could stay relevant in their business. And his 14 points are something that I think everybody should be at least familiar with. Many years ago, I took a business course on quality management, and the course focused on Deming's book called Out of the Crisis. It's about 500 pages. I didn't read the whole thing, even though I was supposed to for the course, but I read what was important, and I still got an A in the class. So I guess I figured it out. Anyway, I thought I would share this with you. So Deming's 14 points. The first one is create constancy of purpose. Those of you who did PDMS operations, you remember that you might have remembered that was in your assignment, to maintain constancy of purpose. Stay focused on what we're trying to do, and when you begin your 6-week, 7-week project, make sure you stay on track. The goal, and this is the part that really impressed me about Deming, was it wasn't about getting more product out the door to make more money. He had a greater perspective that the importance of industry to society and to people and individuals was greater than just the profit motive, even though the profit motive is necessary to stay in business. So he says, create constancy of purpose with the goal of staying in business and providing jobs. People need to meaningfully contribute to society. And you know, right away when I read that as his first point, I was on board with whatever else he had to say. Number 2, adopt a new philosophy. Take on leadership for change. So recognize right from the beginning that we need to improve ourselves. We can't stay where we're at, and you know, be a leader, be a participator in that movement for change. So on step 3, eliminate the need for inspection by building quality into the process. And this isn't just manufacturing stuff. This is in every process, everything that we do. So look at what the process is, and look at how you can improve upstream. So if you ran the SRU experiment, you did a project where you used statistical process control, you developed run charts, you looked to see if your process was in control or out of control, and the idea of that was to catch errors as they were occurring so you could correct and get back on track so that the product that you produced, the end-of-pipe stuff, was good, and we knew we wouldn't have to inspect it end-of-pipe if we were monitoring and controlling those critical to quality parameters. Item 4, develop long-term relationships based on loyalty and trust. Now, from a business management perspective, that means that you're trying to build relationships with your customers and your suppliers, and they're not competing against each other on the idea of price alone. So instead of rewarding business based on low bid, who is this person that I can trust that's always going to give me a quality product, and establish a relationship with that person that's a long-term relationship. And he actually recommended sole sourcing as many of your supplies, the things coming into your supply chain as possible. All right, so number 5, improve constantly and forever. Again, get on that continuous improvement cycle and stay on it. Institute on-the-job training, so developing the people that work for you. Institute leadership, drive out fear. Anybody ever worked for a boss that rules from a position of power and authority and just comes down on you and does stuff and you can't figure out what it is, but somehow we got to respond to that? You know, I guess I've been there a number of times. It doesn't improve your productivity. It doesn't make you want to come to work in the morning. It doesn't help you to become a better person. It doesn't help the organization. So eliminate management from that perspective. And at some point in the near future, you folks will have some kind of management responsibility. And keep that in mind, that it isn't because you have the authority, you need to provide leadership and manage people from that perspective. Break down barriers between departments. So number 9 is really talking about, you know, when I get done with something, I hand it off to somebody else. Don't assume that it's done at that point. Get feedback from that person. Did I provide you with the right things? Do I need to do anything different next time? That kind of thing. This is called the silo mentality. When you're done with something, you throw it out of your silo and it lands in somebody else's silo and it's no longer your concern. That's one of the things that hinders progress and improvement in organizations. So break down those barriers. Number 10, eliminate slogans and exhortations to prevent defects. Recognize the fact that most defects are caused by the process itself. It may be the people that are involved in the process. It may be the systems that we put in place, but look for opportunities to improve those things. So slogans would be, we're going to have 0 accidents in the year 2016, for example, or we're going to produce so many tons per day of product. You know, okay, yeah, we were trying to do that last year. We didn't. Why didn't we? So eliminate the slogans. Let's look at the process that caused the low production or the incidents and accidents, and let's fix those kinds of things. Number 11, eliminate quotas and institute leadership. 12, restore pride of workmanship. There's nothing more important to an individual worker's self-gratification or feeling of self-worth than to come to work and knowing they're making a positive difference. 13, institute a program of education and self-improvement, and this is for everybody within the organization, and we're going to talk more about that. And then 14, put everyone to work to form or to accomplish this transformation. So it's not just a management responsibility. You have to make sure that everybody understands it's their responsibility. So again, let's talk about self-improvement. All right, self-improvement requires self-awareness. It's no different than trying to improve a process. You need to do root cause analysis when you find a problem. All right, so you need to be self-aware, and what does that mean? You need to understand your nature, okay? So you need to cultivate all aspects of your nature, and I'm going to tell you about 4 different aspects of each one of us as human beings. The first one that you need to develop is your physical nature, and you need to practice good hygiene. You need to have a physical fitness program. Chances are, if you're sitting around in front of a computer all the time, you need to get up and walk around once in a while. Take care of yourself that way. Develop a healthy lifestyle. Eat good food. You know, you're working for a company. They're sending you off on the road. They're keeping you there late at night sometimes. Eating at restaurants. You know, you've got to make healthy choices in that area. Intellectual nature, you need to develop that as well. You're doing a good job of that right now. You're finishing up a 4-year degree. You've done an outstanding job, but you need to continue doing that. You've got an emotional nature. This is your feelings, your base feelings of fear and love. You can't understand how you're responding to things unless you understand those. People think hatred is the opposite of love, and really hatred is a higher level response to fear. So if you don't like something, look at what you're afraid of. Ask yourself, what am I afraid of in this particular situation? Or what am I afraid of when I go face to face with that person in a meeting? And ask yourself what's really going on there. The emotional nature is where that fight or flight instinct comes from. So these are the very base human responses to our environment around us. You need to develop those and improve your response to those types of environmental stimuli. You also have a spiritual nature, and I think every one of us needs to acknowledge the fact that you have a deep, abiding need to find truth, beauty, and wisdom. It's in all of us. And if you suppress that, if you don't acknowledge that and move forward in life, trying to develop that, you're going to be an unhappy person. All right? Before we go on, I want to throw this out there. I'm sure you've heard this before. We all should find a role model. We should all find a mentor, especially when we move into a new phase of our life. Don't try to be that person. Acknowledge the good qualities and characteristics and see how you can take those good qualities and characteristics and turn them into something that you can use as an individual. Realize that you're a unique person, and there is only one you, and you were meant to be you, not somebody else. So spend your life trying to be yourself and be productive in that role as yourself. All right, the greatest barrier to self-improvement is our ego. Okay, and like it or not, there's some good things in here and some bad things. And what I'm going to tell you about is when you get obsessed with these bad things, not that they're all bad by themselves, but when you get obsessed by trying to acquire or trying to avoid this list of things here, you can become very unhealthy. All right, power and prestige. We all know people who would set their value systems aside because they're interested in power and prestige. Their ethics goes out the window. Their honesty goes out the window because they want to accomplish something, they want to get some kind of recognition. By fatal attractions, what I'm talking about is maybe you have a relationship with somebody else and you need to have your own self-gratification coming from that person's acknowledgments. Okay, so that person says, oh, you look good today, so okay, now I feel good because that person said I look good. All right, that's kind of an adolescent type of a relationship between people. We see that in high school, junior high school kids all the time. You need to grow out of that. Obsessions with acquiring possessions and pleasure. You know, and yeah, it's great to have things, but make sure that that's not the end all. You know, having the next car. I'd love to have one of those new Camaros that 500 horsepower or whatever that new one they just came out with. But you know, it's not going to make me happy. It'll be fun to drive, but it's not going to give me internal happiness, and that's really what I'm trying to get to here. Seeking praise and popularity. Again, obsessing with all those things causes us to throw out our value system. And then the things that we obsess with avoiding, pain and loss. Okay, by pain, it could be physical pain. We hurt, so right away we run to the medicine cabinet and take something. Very easy to get addicted. Very easy to become hypochondriac. So, you know, watch that. Yeah, okay, there are medications that help us out, but there are also excesses or abuses of that kind of thing. Emotional pain, emotional loss. We avoid relationships with people, or we only allow ourselves to get so close because we're afraid that, you know, maybe we'll get hurt in our next relationship. You know, we've all had relationships with other people, and most of us at some point had a break in that relationship, and it is devastating, it does hurt, but don't let that stop you from moving on to your next relationship. Avoiding pain, blame, and criticism, blame, criticism, and disgrace. Be able to accept constructive criticism and improve yourself based on that. Don't avoid it. When we avoid it, what do? We scapegoat. We blame somebody else. It's because my computer wasn't working right, or the printers were down. I didn't get my report in on time. Anybody ever use that one? Sometimes it's true, sometimes it isn't. So blame, criticism, and disgrace. If they're yours, own them and then move on and just accept that fact. So don't be trapped into that scapegoating type of an attitude. Finally, learn to discipline your lower nature, and if you can do that, I think you'll be a better person for it. So here's my tips, okay? Be grateful for what you have, all right? Learn from the past, plan for the future, but live in the present moment, all right? I'm not saying to abandon all hope for a future. I'm not saying to forget whatever happened in the past, but be present for what's happening around you. Make the most out of your present situation. Be confident in yourself always, but always remain humble. Right? There's nothing more annoying when you go on a job and you meet up with some engineer, maybe he's going to be your boss, and he's so self-righteous. And I say he because usually it is a male person in that role. They're so self-righteous you can't even talk to them. They can never make a mistake. You're always wrong. You can never do good enough to meet that person's expectations and that kind of thing. So be confident, but remain humble. Respect everyone. Look for opportunities to serve others. There's thousands of opportunities in every day, from holding the door for somebody to smiling at somebody as you're walking down the street. Never stop learning. Look for opportunities to improve and take on new responsibility. There's nothing better than at work to go to your boss and say, look, I think I've got what I've got right now. I think I've got it down. I'm ready to take on something else. All right, your boss is expecting that at some point. Some bosses will push more stuff on you, but others will wait for you to come to them. So be open to that. When you're ready for it, ask. And if they think you're not ready, they'll tell you, but they'll put you on a path to get to that new point. Okay, and then finally, take time each day for reflection. All right, and this, I'll tell you what I do. Initially I scheduled this kind of thing, and then after a while it becomes second nature, so you don't have to schedule it. But, 5 minutes a day, twice a day, ask yourself in the past 4 hours, what was I involved in? What kind of interactions did I have with other people? What did I do good and what didn't I do good? How could I have done better in that situation? Just review, reflect on that a little bit and say, okay, if that ever happens again, I'll try harder to not overreact or whatever. And then think about what's coming up in the next 4 hours. You've got a meeting at 2 o'clock, you've got another one at 4 o'clock, and what are these meetings about, who's going to be there, and what are my own personal weaknesses in those situations, and how do I best respond to what I expect is going to happen. All right, as I get ready to close this up, I pulled together a list of things that I think are a higher order of things. Things that, okay, we need a new car and we need to have a place to live and we like to have nice furniture and that kind of thing. But there is a higher order, and I think these need to have a priority in our lives. Loyalty, love, friendship, conversation. There's nothing better than to sit down with someone over a cup of coffee or maybe a glass of wine in the evening and have just a heart-to-heart conversation about something that's going on in your own life. It's sharing that kind of thing. Literature, science, exercise and athletic competitions. I know professional athletics is getting out of hand in some areas. We've got a lot of professional athletes that are in the news all the time. They're criminals, for crying out loud. They're committing felonies in some cases. There's a murder trial going on right now for a football player. But athletic competition, what I'm talking about is the stuff we can participate in. Some of you are athletes here in college, you were in high school. When you get out and work in a community, find local community programs where you can continue if you like playing basketball, if you like skiing, whatever it is. So get out there, and there's nothing wrong with competition. It's good for you and it's healthy. And then the search for a higher power or an absolute truth, I think, should be top on everybody's list. Something that we always try to seek. So, in closing, what I want to leave you with, if I could leave you with anything, would be this one thought. Just remember that in every moment of your life, no matter where you're at, there's always either an unmet need, so something that you're not responsible for, but you could assume responsibility for it, or you already have a required duty for that. Go ahead, look around you, be aware of those kind of things, and respond to those in a positive way. They're everywhere, okay? And I just like to close with that. I wish you the best. And now I'm choking up. John was here. He wanted to say something. Did he? Scott, did he? Okay. Okay. Dr. Sandell wanted to say something, so we'll wait for him. It's been a great year, guys. I really enjoyed having all of you. You're my favorite people right now.
So don't blow it.
I haven't read any reports yet.
Thank you for everything.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for coming to Michigan Tech. I don't think you ever get to hear that, but you could have gone anywhere. Thank you for coming to Michigan Tech. Thanks for the tuition dollars. My bank account appreciates it.
And don't forget to come back.
There you go. Yeah. Anybody want to say anything while we're waiting? Anybody know any good jokes? Any good jokes that we can tell in public?
Phone call. Just a quick announcement. So I'll make this very, very quick. There's no more other business for Dave. Once again, applaud for Dave.